week ended like kind of confusing for me. We're here, so that's good. Let's just settle in for a brief meditation. Just draw the attention right inside your body. Anchoring the mind first by attending to the tactile sensations associated with the earth element. So the feeling of solidity, where your body contacts your seat. Where your hands rest in your lap. And then attend to the water element, that which is fluid and wet. Maybe it's the feeling of moisture in your mouth and your eyes. Maybe you can feel the blood coursing through certain parts of arteries or veins. Then attend to the fire element in the body. Notice it through temperature. Any place that is hot or warm, or any place that is cool. Maybe your cheek or your hands for the cooler air of the room. Meets the warmth of your skin. And then finally the air element, that which is light and moving. attend to the feelings of movement. The most obvious might be the sensations you feel throughout your body in relation to the breath. Just a normal inhale. You might feel into your ribs, your chest, maybe your throat. Staying with the physical sensations associated with the breath. We haven't really been doing it, but it's really important to, Buddhist, the idea is to begin everything that we do by taking refuge, by setting our intention, by taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. And we do what we're going to do, and then we dedicate that goodness at the end. So just take a minute to just think about why you make the effort to be here. And mostly, I think all of us make the effort to be here because there's some kind of positive change that we hope to make in ourselves. And that we hope to do that for ourselves, and we hope to do it for others as well, for everyone in our life. And even for everyone in the whole world. So that we can be a light and inspiration in the world in these times of difficulty. So, we're in the middle of Course 2 review, which is Perfection of Wisdom. It's one of the hardest courses. It started at the beginning. And I was thinking about it, trying to figure out a context for it, and I think what's happening with the first 2 courses, which differs significantly when we get to next class, which we'll start next week, even if we haven't finished all this material, which is where we start applied meditation. So it's really where we jump into practice. These 2 first courses, hey Jay, are I think more of like kind of an overview of the whole path and really where we're going and what's happening. So one of our teachers, our yoga teachers that comes to Tahoe regularly, he teaches a class, a workshop that's called The Map and the Territory. And it's like, so right now, we're kind of laying out the map. And a map is just getting a conceptual image of what it is that we're going. What's the path look like? Like, okay, what's this path of accumulation? And then we get to this period, this big thing in the middle called the path of seeing, and everything changes. This is just setting out a conceptual view of a conceptual map of where it is that we're going. And then the territory is where we actually experience it. Like, you're really into meditation, Paul, so you're constantly bringing us back to like, well, do I need to understand all this stuff, or do I just need to pay attention to what is going on, right? And that's the meditation side. And so if we're ever going to get anywhere, we need both. We need to have a map, a sense of where it is that we're going, and then we have to investigate the territory. And we started by talking about Lamso Namsum, the 3 principal paths. And we said path means realization. It's like an inner revolution. It's something that we experience directly inside of us, and it changes us forever, right? So just having a conceptual map of something is not, it's like we can look at a map of Paris forever, but it's not the same experience as going to Paris. Those are two very different things, and both are important, right? So right now, though, we're looking at the map. And then another one of the great yoga masters is always quoted as saying it's 99% practice, 1% theory. And I would say the Buddhists would totally agree with that. It's 99% experiential, and then it's 1% theory. And because we in this lineage spend so much time on the theory, it's easy to hear that as like, well, it's not true, it's not theory. But I would propose that for the amount of time we spend on the theory, make that 1%, and it needs to be 99% practice, because that's where the theory actually gets integrated into our life, and that's where the only changes take place, right? So refuge is sitting at the beginning of something and saying, I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. May I, whatever, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings, right? That's a way of taking refuge, right? That's the traditional way of taking refuge. And so good to do that, and we should have been doing this, but I'm a bad Buddhist. So that's the way of taking refuge. But really what we've talked more about what taking refuge is all day, every day, when I meet the irritating person and I'm tempted to give a snap back at the irritating person, what it is to take refuge, what it is to seek shelter, what it is to go for true protection to that thing which can actually protect us, is to think, the irritatingness is not in the person out there. Somehow the irritatingness is coming from me because I've been irritating to someone else in the past. And because I want this irritating person to go away, I'm not going to respond by getting irritated or by snarking back, or I'm going to try to put a lid on my response, or I'm going to try to put a lid on the fact that I was going to go tell somebody else how irritating this person was. And I'm going to do that because I want this irritating person to go away. And that's taking refuge in real life. And so we talk about it in class, right? 1% of time, and then 99% of time. Like, first of all, can we start and do that 2 times a day? Remember this. And then can we expand, and can we do it 5 times a day and remember where the world is coming from? That the qualities I see in every person I meet, the qualities I see in all the interactions that happen, even the qualities that I witness about myself, those are coming, those are habits, those are a movie playing on a blank screen right now that comes from how I treated others in the past. And every time we can remember that, and it can help us rein in and change our behavior to plant the kind of seeds that we want to have, that's truly taking refuge. And that's something that we want to just up the ante, so that we do it twice a day, then we do it 5 times, then we do it 15 times, then we do it 40 times. And then eventually we get to the point where we're just constantly in this state of awareness that in this present moment, something is ripening. And then it's icky, and my instinct is to snap back at it. If somebody yells at me, my instinct is to snap back at that person, to see them as irritating and to just retaliate. That's my instinct. But to take refuge in the present moment is to remember, I must have been irritating in the past, and that's why I'm seeing an irritating person right now. And so what I'm seeing is coming from the past. What I have control of, and I have no control over that. Once it's ripening, it's there. But what I do have control of is the future and how I respond. My future is riding upon how I respond in this present moment. So responding to the irritating person by doing whatever I can to be kind and cut through my natural instinct, which is to retaliate back. And by planting that seed to be fully aware that in the future, I'm going to have more happiness. And that is the way to get rid of irritating people. Right there is purification. It's the way to cut through and get rid of irritating people. How do I get another one? Yeah, because the paper was sitting right there. It was so handy. All right. So we started last week talking about, well, are there any outlying questions or thoughts?
Well, I had a meeting last night with I'm in a Dharma friends group, and I brought up this idea of karmic seeds ripening, which is sort of something new to me, a new understanding about it. And it was an example, well, it was in relation to a child who was abused physically by somebody, and him trying to understand how that could have happened. And so I put in the perspective about, well, maybe his karmic seed ripening that made that occur.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, that somehow the child, karma was for that to occur. And I'm wondering if that's the correct understanding.
And that was probably met with some really strong
Some
emotions,
people aren't ready
wasn't
to
it?
hear about karma.
Right.
So
No,
that-
actually, this person is a Buddhist, and
Yeah.
he really took offense to that idea.
It's interesting how, it's quite interesting, because from my perspective, which is not having studied deeply in any Buddhist, in many other Buddhist schools, other than Tibetan, it's hard to imagine how you can really feel like you're a Buddhist and not embrace karma. But I don't know if it's just that I've had a sort of Mahayana presentation of what it is, what the other schools talk about. But I think anyway, that's just a whole different story. So here's the way that one time Winston, who will be here this weekend, and taught a whole course at a Presbyterian church up in Corvallis, Oregon, where he lives. He ran into somebody, there's this amazing hot chocolate thing coming around, so please just have some sips and enjoy it. Pass it on. It's like spicy and chocolatey and really good. So Winston was teaching a course at this church, and he ran into somebody who went to the church, and he said, oh yeah, I'm teaching this class, it's called Seeing Jesus Through Eastern Eyes, and it was Buddhist ideas, but Jesus' quotes and life to kind of like teach the whole thing. And she said, oh, you're Buddhist. Those are the guys that blame the victim, right? And that's the, because of that question that you're having about, that's the idea that people get when they hear karma. Like that it's actually a way to just sit back and say like, well, the crappy thing's happening to these people, it's their karma. So,
Yeah, I think maybe he might have interpreted it that way.
well, I think most of us do when we
Right.
first hear it. I know I
Right.
did. So, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a common kind of thing. So, there's a couple ways to go about this, and it's a big issue. One is karma is never taught for me to talk about someone else's karma, because there's a couple things. I have no idea what somebody else's experience is. Like, we'll get into that in the logic course. There's things that are obvious and we can see them with our eyes. Like I can see that you're wearing a white shirt. You can see that I'm wearing a white and black shirt. That's obvious reality. Then there's hidden reality, which we can see with our logic. Here's a pen. Do I have a pen behind my back?
Most likely.
You can, well, because you'd listened and you would have heard, maybe that was not. Do I have a pen? Am I holding a pen in my hand behind my back? No. And you didn't that you directly heard, but now when I say, do I have a pen behind my back, you can say no, because of your reasoning. I saw her hold a hand and I heard something go thump, but you didn't directly see it fall, so you don't know for sure. Hi. Welcome. You in the right place? Buddhist class? Cool. I don't want you to sometimes like sit down. A friend of mine sat down in an airplane and they were ready for takeoff and she thought she was going to New Jersey and they said, we'll have 6 hours to Hawaii, and she's like, wait, I'm on the wrong plane. So I didn't want that to happen to you.
Jersey over Hawaii.
I know, it was Christmas and she unfortunately had the clothes for New Jersey, so she got off. We're right in the middle of something full on, so just hold on to your seat. What was I saying?
Is there no logic?
behind
in
the
that?
back.
Oh, logic. And then there's deeply hidden phenomenon, which we cannot use our reasoning to see. It's completely deeply hidden for us. And one of those things that's deeply hidden for us is what's going on inside of somebody else's mind. I can guess based on somebody's activities, but I don't really know, right? And then another thing that's deeply hidden is that it's deeply hidden for us what karmic seeds are causing what, for ourselves or for others. That's something that a different kind of being, they say a Buddha can know that. That's one of the things that they know. Like if I'm talking to a Buddha and I have a problem in my life, they can see exactly what karma was planted a long time ago that's producing that right now. So they can give me the really helpful advice about what I need to purify to clean up this situation. What's the actual cause of this problem right now and how to clean it up. So karma it's an idea for us to work with within our own mind, and to never reach out and say anything about anyone else's karma, because I don't even know what anyone else is experiencing. What I do know is if I see somebody being abused, I'm seeing a great wrong happen in the world. And if I don't do something to try to stop that, I'm producing the causes within my own world to be in great danger and great suffering in the future, have somebody around that could potentially help me, and have them say, oh, and have them decide not to help me. Like that's the only thing that I know, is that if I'm ever in trouble, I would really like to have somebody there to help me. When somebody can't help me, I would love to have them choose to do so, instead of choose not to help. And so, all I know when I'm witnessing some kind of suffering going on is that I have two choices. Do I care and try to help? Do I care and not try to help, or do I not? I mean, I guess I have all sorts of choices. Forget the caring part. But do I try to help, or do I not try to help? And that's what kind of seeds do I want to plant in my own mind. We don't know who that being is, and we would never say it's their karma to experience this. They could be an enlightened being manifesting this whole deal to get me to make a decision, to get me to do the right thing, to get me to feel compassion, to get my heart to break open. They could be that, because I don't actually know what's going on inside of anyone's head. I have this assumption that everybody's kind of like me. Actually, the natural thing for most humans is to assume everybody's a little less good than me. Like that's the natural thing. There's like 9 divisions of pride, which is one of the main mental afflictions. And it's to just look out at everyone else and assume they all know a little less than I do. Like a little less. Some seem to know maybe a little bit more. Now and then I run into somebody who knows a little bit more, and that's somebody who like I want to go to a class with them. You know, they know something about some topic, but like pretty much they're all operating from the same set of motivations that I'm operating at. And you'll notice if you have a week where you're kind of curmudgeon-y and grumpy and selfish, you'll start to really think that other people's intentions are less altruistic. And then if you have a week where you're really altruistic and you're really thinking about others and feeling kind, you'll just naturally assume that other people are doing things out of kindness. Like, I mean, I get a total kick out of watching my mind and the assumptions it makes. It's making assumptions constantly about what somebody's doing and why they're doing it. And the truth is, I don't know who anybody is. So when we look at that child that's being abused, we don't actually know what's going on. All I know is I'm seeing abuse and I need to do something about it. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem for me in the future, and I'm magnifying and increasing a world where people that are in great danger do not receive the help that they need. If it needs to be less kind of like selfish sounding, you know. Whereas when I try to help, I'm creating a world. I'm putting energy and investing in a world where when there's somebody in danger, people try to help. It's a hard one. It's a hard one, and it's a problem because it takes some depth of understanding of karma to actually work with this, and that's right where everybody goes when they first learn a little bit about seeds, is exactly to that question. And it takes, do you have another thing about it?
You used the word blame, and it's interesting because I thought about that really early on when I started. That was the first question that came to my mind because of my own experiences in my life, and I chose to filter that not as blame, as taking responsibility for the seeds that I planted in the past and recognizing the importance of not planting those seeds again. I just can't see it as blame.
And I think, I think blame, honestly, it's another, and I don't really like this thing of being like, oh, it's so different in our culture now and in our time now, and like humans are humans, and we're always driven like by this, if we're in this broken kind of place, we're driven by selfishness and greed, and that's just been the case forever on the human plane. But I think the blame gig, I think it's a really modern day kind of thing that doesn't happen so much in more traditional cultures. I think that is true. The blame and the guilt thing, both of that. Like, it's in our consciousness, well, whose fault is it? Okay, there's this big problem going on. First, figure out who's to blame. Like, I think that's a little bit particular. And it might not just be Western, it might be just all modern day technological. Kinda like
Societies that have
society.
currency-based
Yeah.
being, because the money triggers blame.
Yeah, I don't know what, yeah. Is that acceptable, Paul?
Yeah.
And there's
Thank
more
you.
to say about it. I mean, that's a
Thank you.
deep
Yeah.
question. So, okay, so some of these will come up now. Okay, so we're like right in the middle of all this heavy duty stuff, so I'm just gonna blast on and then we'll have some time for questions. Okay, what's your name? Jana, I'm Brandy. Did you come to something here before? Okay, you look like it with Winston or maybe yeah, okay. It's nice to see you. So, I'm gonna just skip that. Did we do the definition of nirvana last time?
I think so.
We didn't do it? Okay. So, we laid out these 5 paths, which are these 5 realizations that happen in our mind that are kind of really significant. When we get to this point up here, we get to a certain point, we reach nirvana. Don't worry about where it falls on here for right now. We reach nirvana. When you hear the word nirvana, what do you think? Not an official
Bliss.
not an official answer if you know those, but what?
Bliss.
Bliss. What else do you think?
Awakening?
The band, awakening.
Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain. I think of his wife. Anything else?
Kind of heaven.
There used to be a really strong idea about nirvana, because nirvana, literally, the words, van means to blow. This is a Sanskrit word, to blow. And nir means out. So the literal words is to blow out. So there used to be a strong association of the word nirvana with just like poof, the end. And it was seen that the goal of Buddhism, the goal of Eastern traditions, liberation, was just to blow out, just to be blown out, just the end. Like it was some kind of spiritual suicide, just the end, like you cease to exist. That was a very popular idea for a while. So that's not true. It does mean to blow out, but it means to blow out something very specific. It means to blow out our mental afflictions. So the definition of the word nirvana is the permanent cessation in which one has eliminated the mental affliction obstacles in their entirety. That's the first part. So
I think we did, because we talked about cessation.
I thought we did, well, that was the definition of dharma, cessation and path, so I think they cross over. The permanent cessation in which, maybe I'm going to erase this. The permanent cessation of mental affliction obstacles. The permanent cessation, so permanent forever, cessation gulk ending of the nyondrip, the mental afflictive obstacles. That's part 1. In their entirety, due to the individual analysis. So part 1, so nirvana, let's say, has 2 parts. Part 1 is end of afflictive obstacles, end of mental afflictions. What are the main mental afflictions? Anger, ignorance, misunderstanding how things, and this is the mother one that's underneath all the other ones. Misunderstanding how things exist. Pride. There's different lists. We'll use the one that has pride on it because it's my favorite. Desire, grasping. Let's put grasping because desire. We can have desire. It is desire, but I like using like grasping or clinging or something because that doesn't really sound good unless you're like, I don't know, holding on to the side of a train.
Jealousy.
Jealousy. So this is the one list of 5. There's another list that has a lot of overlap. And I don't remember which list they're talking about here. It has mostly overlap, but then it has a couple other ones that I think are important. Anyone know? Doubt and wrong views.
That's not the same as ignorance.
It's kind of not. I think there's a list where it's on there and it's talking about,
Oh,
Yeah.
like karma and.
yeah, like more, less deep wrong views. And then ignorance might not even be on that list, and ignorance might be included under here. So this is the merging of two different lists. But nirvana is to blow out all the mental affliction obstacles. So it's to blow out, first comes ignorance, misperceiving how subject, me, exists, how object exists. Misperceiving and forgetting that the way that I'm experiencing my world is a holographic image thrown out of my heart, my past seeds ripening, onto whoever I'm seeing. It's not thinking it's that way. It's thinking there's some self-existent quality in the people I run into, some self-existent quality in me, myself. So when that ignorance, that basic wrong way of holding on to how I exist, how others exist, when that's there, all of these other things arise in response to it. Because when I run into icky person, I also think that the ickiness is in that other person out there. And then anger arises, and I want to get rid of it. I want to push it away. When I run into that desirous person, thing that's going to bring me happy, I think my happiness, the source of my happiness, something happy producing resides in this person out there. And therefore, if I can get that happy producing thing to me, if I can hold on it and pull it in for myself, then I will be happy. And so then we grasp onto things, and we're willing to hurt other people to get what we want, to get the thing that will make me happy. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that idea? To get the thing that will make me happy. It's saying that my happiness could come from the delicious chocolate or the smell of the rose or the attention of the person or something like that. It's not like that. When we taste the delicious chocolate, there's an object out there, and it's delicious. If it's delicious to you, it's old seeds ripening from having given something delicious to somebody else. And those old seeds are ripening into a sense of, yum. And it's not in the object. And the proof is, if I kept drinking these delicious hot chocolates all night, right, and on number 6, chugging it down, would it even taste delicious anymore? It'd be awful. Has anyone ever eaten a pint of Ben & Jerry's? I have.
Yeah.
By the time you get to that bottom, you're like, I don't know, I just gotta finish it. But there's no pleasure. No pleasure anymore. It's just some weird, I don't know. So nirvana is to permanently blow out a permanent cessation of all of these mental afflictions. And the word for afflictions is klesha. Klesha is a Sanskrit word, and it comes from the root klish, which means to bother, to distress. And we get the words holly, because it's prickly and pokey. What else do we get, honey? There's something else. I can't remember. I wasn't planning on going there. So we blow these out from their roots, so we are not even capable of misperceiving, because if we've wiped it out ignorance, and even if we encounter someone that's irritating, we are incapable, well, they're not irritating. We're incapable of encountering an irritating person at that point. It's so interesting. Okay, so that's the first half of nirvana. And then, pardon?
Chaos.
Really? Chaos? Oh, nice. So the root, anyway, also chaos, that's fun. That's a new one. So the second part of nirvana, the definition of nirvana, the way that we end all of these mental afflictions permanently, in their entirety forever, is by the individual analysis. What does that mean? And interestingly, so sosor tak gok. Sosor tak is individual and takpa is analysis. We eliminate all of these afflictions by individual analysis, which is actually what happens. Path 3 also has 2 parts. The first part we call the DPE, which is the direct perception of emptiness, which is, they say, 15 to 20 minutes, directly perceiving ultimate reality itself. We talked about this last week. And then that has this residual effect because it changes the fabric of our being in some way. The second half of path 3 is called J-Top Yeshe. And J-Top Yeshe is the aftermath wisdom is Yeshe. J-Top Yeshe, and that's the experience for 24 hours where we have all of these different realizations. And that's what the individual analysis is. It's like, because then our eyes are open, we're perceiving the world, but we're perceiving it under the heavy influence of this truth, this highest truth that we just realized. And that perception of this truth, of that things are actually coming from me and not at me, and witnessing how everything in the world is suffering, how the way that the minds of others are working is suffering, how the suffering is caused by klesha and ignorance, by misperceiving things and then acting upon that misperception and setting this boomerang of karma into action, which comes around, hits me in the head later, and then when it hits me in the head, I don't know that it was my own karma, I think it was the person in front of me. And then I just keep it spinning like that, samsara. So understanding that, individual analysis, this wisdom that happens here, that's what allows us to permanently, eventually, to permanently annihilate our mental afflictions. But they're called afflictive obstacles, our mental affliction obstacles. Okay. Questions or ideas?
I have one clarification actually. Okay, you might have just said this, but so part 1 of path 3, DPE, that's where you're looking at the emptiness of you're seeing it directly, the emptiness of yourself. And then the second part is where you're seeing it out in the world, right? Or no?
I think you could say that. I mean, they say the emptiness that you see when you're in this direct perception is the emptiness of yourself. They also say you meet the Buddha directly. You meet the Dharmakaya of the Buddha. Like, because at this point, it's ultimate reality, which doesn't have the distinctions and the separation of deceptive reality or of the appearance side of reality. So it's just what is there, which is a sheer absence of any self-nature of its own. So I think so in a way, you're seeing the emptiness of yourself. In a way, you're meeting the emptiness of everything. In a way, you're meeting the Dharmakaya, the mind of an enlightened being. But there's no place to say it's really any of those things. But yeah, and then I don't know if it's, and then I think in J-Top Yeshe, it's more like the appearance of things has come back. And then you're seeing very clearly that the appearance of, I see right now the way it appears, because it does appear again, even in this point, it appears that I'm over here, this other person is over there, and we're having an interaction, the 3 spheres. But in this aftermath, you're fully realizing that the appearance of all, of me, of you, of our interaction is coming from my own past karma. All the qualities, the whole story, this whole grand display of changing relationships is all funneling out of my mind, funneling out of my past experience. So you're just in this direct experience. So you're also still realizing the emptiness of yourself within that. But I would say DPE is a direct perception of ultimate reality, and J-Top Yeshe is a direct, maybe you could say a direct perception of the appearance side. And you don't want to even say deceptive reality, although you could say deceptive reality, because in a way, it's still appearing as deceptive to this person, to this Arya. That's technical. But for some of you, that'll make sense.
I really like the definition of nirvana, the blowout. It makes me think of in Tonglen when you, the little flame, and then like blowing it out, and then definitely it gives me more to go into the afflictions and really study them. It gives me some more depth for that practice.
Way more depth.
Yeah.
Way more depth. I love that too, how the flame is actually the self-cherishing mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that imagery. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And that self-cherishing mind is really composed of all of these.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. Nice. Anything else? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and the definition of nirvana, the mental affliction obstacle, that says that specifically.
Yeah.
Which seems to imply that there's mental afflictions that aren't obstacles.
They just call it when they divide nirvana, getting to nirvana, becoming an arhat, is when you have permanently eliminated your affliction obstacles, which is all of these things, due to the individual analysis. you have not yet eliminated the second set of obstacles, which are the obstacles to omniscience. And only a fully awakened Buddha has eliminated both the obstacles to omniscience and the afflictive obstacles. And there's a distinction between those two states of being. So I don't think they're saying that there's other afflictions that are not obstacles. I don't think they're saying that. Oh, although there is some subtle afflictions that are awake in here, because to the mind of for an arhat, one who has reached nirvana, there are some afflictions still in their mind, and those are the obstacles to omniscience. There's still something limited. It's just not as gross as any of these. It's something about identity. And it's something about still being in some kind of a container rather than limitless like Sangye, which is vast and awakened. Buddha, awake, fully awake. And so the capacity of what an arhat can do to help others is very, very different than what a Buddha can do to help others. So this is all just the Buddhist spiel, right? I've bought it, but I haven't seen any of this directly. I like the idea, I like the map. And I think we just the point is, it's good to have a map. And I've found that I have a map and it's very conceptual at first, but then I take a few steps and what they've said about the earlier stages starts to pan out, and then I get more faith and I practice a little harder, and then I take a couple more little baby steps way up at the beginning, and then I get a little further and what they say pans out a little more. But all of it is just kind of take it, leave it. It doesn't matter, in a way, But it's a fine distinction. I like the fact that the afflictive obstacles, so off topic. The afflictive obstacles everybody has. What you need to get rid of the obstacles to omniscience is bodhicitta and love. And that's the difference between somebody who is on some path, which the goal is nirvana, to become an arhat, to blow out your mental afflictions, which is a beautiful goal, and the difference of somebody who is on a path where the goal is to fully get enlightened so you can really serve all living beings. And what blows out, what makes things completely vast and limitless is love. It's this kind of compassionate love which sees the potential to be the source of assistance for all others. There's something super cool about that. And you felt that when you have an intense experience of empathy or connection with somebody else, in that state of empathetic connection, you are able to say, to meet them and be what they need in that moment. And I know you've all tasted that in certain ways. And it's why we like teaching yoga and meditation or whatever like that. Anytime we can kind of connect. And for me, it's not always there. But when it is, and you feel these words coming out your mouth, which you're like, I don't know why I'm saying this, but then it just lands. I feel like that's a little taste of this kind of thing. It's like for 5 minutes, I was able to not be so wrapped up in brandy and really listen and give my best attention to somebody and hear and get into their mind space. And somehow that tears down some barrier and you're able to really serve. And I think that's a little taste of what Buddhahood must be like, to just be available. And then you're able to just mirror exactly back and be available with the intention to serve and to bring freedom and to hold this person as in this high, beautiful potential. And then you just mirror back and present back to them whatever it is that they need, to be happy, whatever it is they need to grow. That's just mental wandering. Any ideas? Thoughts? Okay. So now there's just a whole bunch of interesting technical kinds of questions. Okay, and this one I've never understood, and I was so happy to hear on a tape of my teacher teaching it, him saying, I have no commentary because I don't get it either. There's a question, you know what, maybe I'm just going to leave that. I'm actually just going to leave that, and you guys can figure it out, those of you that are doing the homework. It's nirvana with something left over and nirvana with nothing left over. We're going to skip that. There's another one that asks about the nirvana which does not stay. That's a term that's used a lot. We're going for the nirvana which does not stay. And this nirvana which does not stay is equal to the words Buddhahood or enlightenment. And it's saying they do not stay in either of the extremes of suffering life or the extremes of peace. So the nirvana which does not stay goes all the way to the end, which is full-on Buddha, awakened, which is awake. And then rather than hanging out in samsara suffering, or rather than getting to a place just of peace where, great, I've eradicated all my own mental afflictions. I've created this state of deep inner bliss, which is subtle and beyond anything that we can imagine, of happiness and joy. And then I'm just going to stay there and just enjoy that for myself. And the nirvana, which does not stay in either of these two extremes, is full awakening and Buddhahood. So you still get all the bliss, but you're aroused from that state and serving others as well. So this is referred to a lot in the different teachings. And again, we're just doing the map of the territory, right? The map, and then territory is where we practice and engage. The next question asks, what are the three main parts of the method for teaching nirvana? So we want to get to nirvana, we want to wipe out our afflictive obstacles. I mean, that just sounds good, doesn't it? Like yesterday I was just in a bad mood. So first I snapped at my daughter, then I snapped at my husband, then somebody from my daughter's school called and I snapped at her. And that was just flat out embarrassing. And then I can't remember who the fourth one was, but it was kind of like, so I, very quickly, quite early in the morning, I was just biting the heads off of anyone who came into my purview. And then I spent the whole rest of the day, feeling crappy, regretting it and just feeling so bad, and it was just it was so much suffering. Had I just been able to rein my mind in and then rein my mouth in for 20 minutes, they could have not experienced that. And Lord knows what karma I planted, that's all there too. But even just the way it set the rest of my day up, I just was so unhappy and so just horrified and embarrassed about the way that I talked to the receptionist. And it's just oh my gosh. So we all can appreciate the wish to get rid of our mental afflictions. I think that's obvious. So what are the causes for doing that, for reaching nirvana? The first one is what's called the extraordinary training of wisdom. I'll just put wisdom. The extraordinary training of wisdom. And then the second one, and so this is all this stuff that we've been drawing these crazy diagrams of. It's just recognizing that the qualities I see in other people are not resident and inherent in the other people, but rather I'm seeing those qualities in them because of me, because of the glasses I'm wearing, something I'm bringing to the table. So it's just really working and struggling with that idea. The second one is the two other extraordinary trainings. Maybe we should have that. Extraordinary. And this is really the path. The two other extraordinary trainings, which are? Meditation. And? Kind of. It's included in this. Ethics.
Fine morality.
Yes. Ethics and meditation or concentration, often they say in this list. Although the words are kind of interchangeable. So, because we understand that the world is the qualities of the people, everything around me is being projected from my mind, what makes sense? Oh, it makes sense to practice kindness, to not kill, to not steal, to not tell lies. Why? Because I don't want to live in a world where I'm sick and people are getting hurt around me, and I don't want to live in a world that's the result of stealing, which is not having enough food. I don't want to live in a world where everybody lies to me and is trying to trick and deceive me all the time. I don't want to live in those worlds. So the practice of ethics makes absolute sense, and it makes absolute sense that every tradition on the planet starts with a list of ways that we should stop hurting other people. Across the board, that's always number one, And it's why? Because if we're going to even be able to hear any of the higher wisdom of any of the teachings, we have to have a pretty clean heart. And the way we get a clean heart is by practicing ethics, by not hurting other people, and by taking care of other people. And then concentration is this whole beautiful thing we talked about a little bit last week, is developing the stability of attention so that we can see higher truths. We cannot directly see emptiness. We can't reach really anything unless we have a mind which can stay still and focused, a mind which can stay put. We can say, mind, focus on this, and it does, rather than being an untrained puppy that wants to run all over the place, a mind that can stay still. So concentration, and actually concentration affects both of them. It affects our ability within meditation to meditate on ultimate things, and then it also affects our ability in the sense of mindfulness to maintain an awareness while in our 23 hours a day waking and walking around, to maintain an awareness an awareness of this concept that things are empty and coming from me. So I want to respond kindly in all cases, and to also maintain an awareness that my job when I'm interacting with others is to watch my actions and my words, right? Because I want kind actions and kind words in my world. So the 3 extraordinary trainings are this big theme that really run through all traditions of Buddhism. That's something you find everywhere. The third one, how do they word it? The third thing is, okay, basically it's what happens here after the path of, and it's, I'm going to say it's getting used to what you saw. At this point, so remember this is talking in the context. So there's 2 ways. Talking in the context of, they're talking in the context of somebody who's already in Arya. What does it take to see emptiness directly and to get to this point where you've then eliminated all your mental afflictions? Because you have this direct perception of ultimate reality, where you just are immersed in the emptiness, the fact that things have no nature of their own. You come down from that, and appearance reasserts itself, and you see yourself over here, you over there, you see the whole thing. Appearance reasserts itself. And so there's this period of time, which is an interesting period of time. Things look to us again. So there's the one day, which is the Jetop Yeshe, where we're having really deep perceptions. But then after that, there's this whole period of time where things look to us as though they're self-existent. But because of what we saw directly, one of the realizations of that is you can never believe that you were wrong. Nobody can ever talk you out of what you know. And you know this from your life. Like, if you've had a direct taste of something, no matter how convincing somebody is, they can't talk you out of it. Like you've had this direct experience and it's yours. It's your knowledge, and nobody can undo that. And so you know what you saw, so you see things wrong. Things still seem to be coming at me, but I know that I'm wrong. I know that I'm mistaken. And so this period is what's called Maya. Is that the right? Is the long A long? Maya for illusion?
Maya, M-A-Y-A.
Is it a long A though?
M-A-A.
Okay.
Maya.
Maya. Both of them are long?
Only
Maya.
the first one is
Oh, only
long.
the first one. Oh, okay. Sorry, that's Maya. Maya.
Maya means Maya. If the second one is long, means mind.
Oh, of course,
Maya
of course.
is illusion or the appearance.
Mm.
Maya means mind.
Okay, cool. Maya, it's Gyuma Tabu in Tibetan. Doesn't matter. But it's the path. This is called this stage in here after seeing emptiness directly. Path 4 is called the path of habituation. So it's talking about this path of habituation. And it's getting used to what you saw in that things appear as self-existent. They appear wrong. But you know they're wrong. You know they're empty. You don't believe what you see. So there's this period, and it's called the period of illusion, because you know that what you're seeing, what your senses are telling you is wrong for the first time. Like, you really know that solidly. And so there's this process of fully getting used to that and you're now using your intellectual, conceptual understanding of emptiness to override what you're actually seeing. It looks like that irritating person is coming at me, which is very interesting. And I think the reason it's interesting for us is that's the same thing we are doing right now when we take refuge. Is we are using, but it's a more meager understanding of emptiness. It's like a little, so at this stage you get this huge flaming sword. What's the big sword that the guy pulls out of the rock? Excalibur. At this stage you are the one carrying Excalibur around, this sword of wisdom. And when somebody yells at you, they might appear to be irritating, they might appear to be wrong, you might have the instinct to yell back, but you pull out your flaming sword of wisdom, which is that, no, wait, dude, I saw the fact that you have no nature of your own. I saw the fact that you're only looking irritating to me because I've been irritating before. And I know that if I want to get rid of you in the future, I have to not be irritating right now. I have to set a different boomerang into motion right now. And that understanding, that intellectual, conceptual understanding is so strong because of an experience that you had before, right? So they use the wisdom sword of Manjushri as like the symbol of wisdom to cut through deceptive appearance, to cut through my tendency to believe that things are coming at me, that the quality resides in the person. So right now, like, if I folded, this is my sword, right? So when I encounter something really difficult, it's just like broken in half and done for, right? And like, so, but it's the same process. But at this stage, it becomes very strong. You know it without a shadow of a doubt. You know what you saw. Now we're struggling, but we're doing the same thing. We're using our reasoning. We've all had some perception of emptiness just in these conversations that we've had together. That perception gets stronger and stronger and stronger until it becomes a direct perception. And then that whole time, while it's getting stronger, we get better at responding more skillfully to more and more difficult situations. Right? And then it becomes this huge upward spiral because we struggle like to practice the 8 verses of Lojong, which are so impossible. We struggle to do the right thing karmically and override what my instinct is telling me to do in this moment. And we do it as an act of truth, like really believing, I don't know for sure, but this stuff sounds good and I believe it's true, so I'm going to put my faith in it and try to act according to it. By the truth of karma and emptiness, may this be true. And then it produces this upward spiral. Different things start to open, miracles start to happen, and then our strength and our truth and our understanding becomes stronger and stronger. So this third path is getting used to what you saw. And that's what we're doing right now. Any questions about that? Thoughts?
I call it second puberty.
Cool.
The first puberty changes your life.
It's true.
Second puberty
Nice.
changes the life.
Nice. Yeah. And this is about as awkward. So that's good. It's about as awkward. It's like, I don't know where my body ends anymore. I've lost touch. Yeah,
This resonates really strongly, even just with things I'm working on individual pieces in my life where I know that it's an old habit that I've learned to see things a certain way. So when I see them, it's like, nope, that's just that old habit. Shift it. And so I'm already doing it. So it was so beautiful to hear this and go, yeah, okay, I know that process. It's not about emptiness yet, but I know the process. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, cool. To recognize,
Yeah.
I'm falling in again.
Oh, it's
No,
been
wait,
relieving
stop.
so much suffering to do that. Old
Awesome.
tapes.
Old tapes.
Going back to what was on the afflictions, the more that you get into like concentration and like capacity for meditation, and the more that you are in your body, like conscious of it, can you start to categorize those afflictions by your relationship with them in your body and where they are in your body, and
So
then
I would say yes.
and
Yeah.
practice with it
Yeah.
like that?
Because an affliction, by the time we're talking about jealousy, we're very much talking about a whole story of mental processes. And before that, there was a physiological response to something. So the more mindfulness and self-awareness that we have, and the more we're just still and in tune, we can definitely feel that. Like, oh, this is that. And then we have a familiarity with this particular feeling and how that ripples out and grows, and what affliction and what kind of pattern that turns into. And then we might have we might have a sense that it belongs in the category of pride or the category of jealousy or whatever, but we can learn exactly. We learn to start to recognize it. And I think that's why yoga and body awareness stuff is so incredibly important, because back at the beginning of everything that becomes a mental affliction is some kind of just a physiological response. And I know in working in the prison with with all trauma people, to get them back into their body is just huge, because often if we've been traumatized, we don't actually have access to that place anymore. And the traumas are stored, those traumas are stored inside the body. And so these patterns are re-triggered first inside the body, for sure.
Seems like you could purposefully re-trigger a pattern and then work with it in meditation with like love and
Absolutely.
forgiveness and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super full. It's break time. Okay, let's take 5 minutes. I don't know my, oh. Okay, we did my 5 minutes.
You want me to set it for my,
Yeah, will you?
it was only supposed to beep once, but it beeped
Oh, it's fine.
sometimes.
I'll
I'll set
please
it for 5 minutes.
Set it for 5. Take a break. We have all the hard stuff to do.